can be able to do what you do. Now, Fintech Friday and then Fintech Hub. As Nancy has promised to show us, maybe I'll just give a little bit of introduction. As all of you know, over the last couple of years, not just couple of years, actually over a number of years, financial technologies have been invading the banking space and several other financial services. And the technologies that we're seeing, maybe most of us are using today, why we survived COVID, it was mostly because we could actually do a lot of stuff digitally. So when we were conceiving the Fintech Hub, we were looking at who is out there. There was a landscaping that was done through our partnership with UNCDF. And it showed us what's available, who is doing what. But at the same time, it showed us where some of the weaknesses are. And since then, in 2019, things have been evolving. And today, I just want to thank our partners. I'll start with the Ministry of ICT and Innovation, which is represented by Angelo Mnezero, who's here. He will be speaking, so I'm not going to be preempting him. And we have UNCDF. When you say UNCDF, you don't get to know what actually the whole meaning of the organization is. It's United Nations Capital Development Fund. Emphasis, capital development. Okay? And why do I put an emphasis there? Because one of the key impediments to growth of startups, to growth of SMEs and businesses at large is the absence or the lack of capital. And they understand this better than most of us, if I may say, and they've been working with different organizations around the world over a long period of time. So when we started this journey, they were actually the catalyst. And since then, we've built instruments that the cohorts or the startups that are going to share with us will tell us more on what they got out of it and everything. But just want to thank them for taking a bet. It's kind of different from the usual incubation or acceleration programs, even the ones that we run ourselves. Okay. At the ICT channel, we run a number of programs, but it is unique. The uniqueness is in the fact of the how liberal you are, the freedom that the startup has on what they use the funds for, and it's mostly for growth of their, to support the growth of their businesses. So I can't thank them enough. And several, the startups, the entrepreneurs that have been applying, I see some of them here that have applied, maybe we didn't, they weren't selected because the process is also tough. So we're here. One, why do we make this very public and invite all of you here? Is because we don't have any plans to stop. We keep going. We're keeping on going. And for that to happen, I think there's an African saying that says that it takes a whole village to raise a child. And for fintech to grow in Rwanda, it will require all of us. Now you may ask, but I'm not interested, I'm not interested in fintech. Yeah, but you use the services. You can use the services. How can you get involved? You can get involved as a customer. You can get involved as a financier. You can get involved as a mentor, as an advisor, and so on and so forth. So, and one of the things we realize is the domain expertise that is needed in the financial services domain expertise, which is one of the things that not just the tech startups, but the entire industry is still lacking. And we think deepening that is one of the outcomes that we want to see the hub service. So without taking more time, I just want to thank you all for making it today. Promise you that There's a lot of drinks. You see those tables that are at the back, the black ones. And therefore mingling and sharing, and there will be enough time for collaboration, for networking and getting to know each other. But for now, just want to welcome you and thank you and invite you to be part of this journey, whatever capacity you want to take in our development of the fintech sector in Rwanda. We promise that you will see great companies coming out of Kigali, fintech companies. We already have some. I'm excited, very, very excited about the ones that are going to share on the platform today. So that you hear from them and not from me. Nancy, back to you. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Alex. Okay, I hope you're excited. I noticed that when they mentioned drinks, nobody looked behind. So I guess you're so engaged and excited for exactly what's happening in front of you. And then I'm sure that afterwards, you'll be very excited for what's going to happen behind you. Is my assumption right? Okay, good, great. So then now I know that the audience is ready for this. Alex, thank you so much for giving us background on what this is all about and why we're here. Maybe just to add visuals for the visual learners, i.e. myself, let's watch a video and see what the startups were going through and just hear from them directly.
Fintech Hub is an acceleration program dedicated to supporting fintech startups to scale by addressing their needs for skills, partnerships, access to capital, and navigating regulatory environment. It's an initiative of UNCDF in partnership with the Ministry of ICT and Innovation, Kigali Innovation City, the Ministry of Trade and Industry, and it is implemented by Rwanda ICT Chamber.
Our motivation to join the Fintech Hub was seeing this opportunity to do a number of different things. One was directly support startups so that they're able to grow their customer base, raise money, and be able to start to scale. Two was to help mobilize partners so that we can start to create those interconnections and collaborations so that the startups are able to thrive.
U+ is a financial app that enables collective savings and investments. We make it easier for groups to pool money together for any particular reasons, or to even loan that money to each other so they can invest in a particular activity or an asset. Right, so that's what U+ focuses on. We make it easier and seamless for groups to be able to grow their financial, profile.
First, we looked at the banking sector. We saw how there was a big process in terms of one, completing the payments, and then we also saw the other sectors in education. We saw how parents were taking long and having lots of pains in completing the payment for their children. Long queues and also frequent questions, delays in payments, such as asking for an ID when it is your own account. So we managed to see these gaps, and then we said, you know what? We can actually bring up a solution that can fasten the payments and even it being more secure.
Food Bundles is a digital platform which is optimizing distribution of fresh food for consumers living in the city, and also creating a sustainable market for smallholder farmers in the rural area, all using the digital platforms. So our value is that we help the people in the agricultural value chain to minimize number of middlemen from an average of 5 people to less than 1 honorary middleman, so that the consumer can have a sustainable fresh food supply and also at affordable price.
The hub provides or offers tailor-made technical assistance to these companies to address their needs that are mostly around product development, licensing, and customer acquisition. In addition to that, Fintech Hub provides a milestone-based grant to every startup towards the end of the cohort, and so startups use those that grant to further develop their product and ameliorate their strategies and models to become more investment ready, so as to raise or attract more investors for their businesses.
I joined this cohort of Fintech Hub, whereby we benefited in I would say in the free aspect. Number one, there was a mentorship. We were connected with a mentor. Number two was the financial support, which allow us to create the food bundle mobile application. We've integrated Ocean, allowing people to have alternative financing, which is buy now, pay later integrated. Then the last and not least is the partnership aspect of it, where through the hub we are able to have a partnership from the telecom, from the regulators, and even also the legal support, which is very crucial. So the free aspect of the hub has contributed significantly to the progress we are making right now.
The second part is the regulatory advocacy. They were able to advocate and give us advice on how to go about things when it comes to regulatory requirements.
And we were supported in daily checkups on our business development, product development, and what we needed. And once we had talked about all the needs that we need for our company, that's when the technical support was issued, which helped us solve most of our bottlenecks, including getting a license for the USSD functionality. And that once we got that, that opened our product to a wider market.
Our Ministry of ICT Innovation, amongst the other things that we are interested with, there is even the advancement of the fintech ecosystem in Rwanda. So the rationale of supporting fintech startups comes with the target that our country has set, which is to actually achieve 100% adult financial inclusion by 2024. And for now, as we speak, we are at 93. Fintech Hub was part of different initiatives that we embarked on to ensure that we are advancing towards our targets, but specifically maybe being specific to what we've done within the Fintech Hub. If you look into the startups that we've been supporting, at least they have increased more even than 10 times in terms of the clients, the customers they are serving, and this was based to the support that we're able to give them in terms of technical but also financial support. But the second success is now even the collaboration between the startup, the policymakers, but also the regulators. We used to have that, I would call that unconnected ecosystem, where a startup would complain that the regulatory regime is not to their favor, is not helping them to grow. But now we have this engagement where we meet, we discuss if the regulatory sandbox, let's say, is not helping them. We propose the change and amendment which the regulatory authorities are doing. So it's like that kind of collaboration and also regulatory by doing, which we think is pushing and accelerating our fintech ecosystem.
I hope that was helpful for a lot of you. So, of course, some of the startups that we'll be hearing from, there's Uplus, there's Urid, and PesaChoice. But before we even get started to hear from them on the panel, I'd like to invite Mrs. Rosaline, who is the representative for UNCDF here.
Thank you. Good afternoon. They've said my name. Oh, good afternoon. Thank you. I'm a former teacher. That's why I want people to follow me and to bond with me. So good afternoon. I'm pleased to be here. My name is Roslyn, representing UNCDF here in Rwanda. So I made a speech. Once in a while I do make speech. So for me to not forget where we started from, I think I'm happy, and the entire team of UNCDF, United Nations Capital Development Fund, as Alex has said, is pleased to see this milestone being achieved. Because for us, as Alex said, when we started it, it was like a woman who was pregnant. Pregnant when we were doing the landscape analysis, wondering what's in here, what's available in the Rwandan market, and what are we supposed to do. Then from the landscape analysis, in partnership with the Ministry of ICT, ICT Chamber, KIC, Minicom by then, we started the hub. But we didn't know what to expect. We sent out requests for proposals, and we had, I think, by then 30 applications that were screened out. We ended up with 7, then we started with 5, then we have concluded with the additional 3. Looking from 2019, as Alex said, to now, what we have achieved, I will say that our baby, being the FinTech Hub, has really helped the FinTech to make baby steps. We are not yet flying, as we are hoping, but we have made baby steps in the sense that when we look at data, because for us we always look at data, there are more than 145,000 people that you've been able to achieve in addition to the people, to beneficiaries you are serving when you join the hub. Among them, you have around 42,000 women. So for us, those are baby steps, but you've started. And congratulations for that. And we are hoping for more. But as a development partners, I've seen a tendency on the market. We've discussed with Alex over and over about it. I know learning never ends. People always want to learn. But my plea to the fintechs that are graduating and those that graduated before is, can you please first apply what you've learned before you go to another hub, so that you know what the experience you've gained, the knowledge, the skills, then you assess the gap you still have so that you move forward. Because moving from one hub to another, I doubt if you know, this one give us garbage, this one give us potatoes, Alex was poisoning our lives, so we don't know. So if you can sit down and apply, then move forward, please go do it. And I don't know if we have development partners. At least I can see Angelos, I have Alex. I don't know if we have other hubs being represented here. My question will be, what's next? We have fintechs that are moving from hubs to hubs. We are supporting them, but what's next? Alex said capital development fund. Yes, capital will provide, but there's more than capital. There's something else that is needed. There's the network, there's the skills, there's the market. So how can we support the fintechs to fly higher, better, and the sky is not the limit for me. So as a conclusion, I want to thank the Ministry of ICT, ICT Chamber, even the fintechs to have participated in the hub, but also hoping that we are going beyond here. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, I think obviously hearing from Alex, hearing from Rosine, and obviously watching the video, you can see that there's been a lot of support, but that doesn't change the fact that you might be curious about a few things. So I'd like to take this moment to call upon the few startups that we'll be hearing from. I'll call them by name so you know exactly who you'll be addressing, whose question is going where. And then we can start the panel conversation. And if you have a question, please make sure to stand up, put your hand, stand up. There'll be a microphone over there. They'll hand it to you, your name, and then your question. And of course, I'm guessing it will be very quick, where we're not hearing your life story, even though I'm sure we'll want to hear it as we network. But for time and also getting to learn more from the startups, I think it would be good to just stand up, name, and your question. Okay, we good? And I didn't hear anything. Are we good? Yes. Perfect. Okay. I would like to invite the CEO and co-founder of Pesa Choice, Mr. Davis Nhezidyai. I'd like to invite Edouard Kirenga, who is the Managing Director of Uplus Mutual Partners. And finally, I'd like to invite the CEO of Urit Technologies, Emmanuel Murinziz. Maybe to get us started, your microphones are over there, and I think you can just turn them on when you're ready. Maybe for a brief minute, could you please tell us what you're working on and what solution are you giving? I know we watched the video, but of course, for Pesa Choice was not part of the video. But maybe for all of you, just a minute or so to tell us what is it that you're working on and what is the solution that you're giving us.
Hello, hi everyone. Okay, so Pesa Choice, we are an HR-enabled fintech. We focus on giving instant salary advances to people with employment. Well, everyone works, but you don't get your salary when you need it the most. And we've come to realize that the market gap in Africa, people don't have a lot of savings. They would like to access their salaries at least ahead of time. And that's what our solution does, is making sure that people can access their salaries anytime, anywhere.
Hi, my name is Edward, and I'm the Managing Director of Uplus Mutual Partners. And we focus on enhancing collective savings and investments between colleagues, friends, and family. So we realized that the way people collectively save and invest is really inefficient. So we decided to create a financial platform that enables that. And in addition, we say that beyond savings, how can people grow their money? And that's what we're focused on. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. My name is Murunziza Emmanuel. Urit Technologies. Urit means your identification. It's a short terminology to mean your ID. So Urit Technologies. Basically, we are working to address the payment challenges that are existing. Three things: identification, authentication, and authorization. Yeah, so when you look at the payments, they are basically trying to see how they identify the person or the payer, if this is his own account or so it can be served. So we are actually addressing three things: identification, authentication, and authorization. Yeah, we've built an inclusive, contactless payment infrastructure that brings all the modes of payment on one single platform. So the payer will be able to complete the payment by just a wave of the palm over the terminal, and then he will find all the wallets on one single platform. And for identification, definitely, we are based on the palm vein technology, where we use tokenization as a way to identify the payer. Thank you.
Maybe just to start us off, could you tell us why that specific solution? What's the story behind coming up with that specific solution?
Thank you. Well, we looked at a number of things, the challenges that were on the market, and we built a vision that says any wallet, anytime, anywhere. So I could say that there were a couple of things. One, fragmentation. When you go to the supermarket or when you're going to buy something, you find a merchant having all these, can I call them the POS? Equity Bank, you find all these scattered everywhere on the merchant desk. And you're asking yourself, how is this person going to have the space and serve the clients? So for us, what we said, you know what? Let's use Palm Cash. That's why we introduced and said, okay, let's have all these mode of payments on one single platform. Okay, so you choose maybe say Equity Bank, EcoBank, on one single platform, and then we link them with your Palm. As I said, tokenization. You're given a token that identifies you over your account on one single platform. The other thing, I could say, the current payment system, in a way, it's exclusive, and in a way, you find that if someone doesn't have a smart card or a smartphone, an average person that is digitally literate, you find he's left out. So for us, we said, okay, because literally, you won't tell me that everyone has a smartphone or a smart card to complete a payment, or even when you lose them. So at the end of the day, you need to transact. So you have your Palm as your everything in one. So the Palm, like I said, 3 things: the identification, to authorize, and also authenticate. So this is why we are building the story, okay? What happens when your phone is stolen, your smart card is all gone? So this is where Palm Cash comes. Yes, I think, yeah.
Thank you. And I think it's also interesting because when you listen to that, one of the things you think about is USSD codes and how do you move it from, you know, the cities to the rural areas. And I think I'll come back to that because I have a question on that. But before we even move on, Edouard, can you tell us a little bit about some of the key takeaways that you took from, you know, the FinTech Hub that you guys, the cohort that you were taking in? What are some of the key takeaways and how are you using that with U+?
Sure. What we understood from the FinTech Hub was to make sure we get our fundamentals right. So A was to increase the access of our product. So that was the, as I said in the video, the USSD option. So the moment we're able to afford the license with the help of the FinTech Hub, it opened our product to a wider market segment. And yeah, so it's just making sure you get your fundamentals right, knowing who your customer base is, right? So it's when you're offering the product, you know, knowing why they're using your product, when they come back with the feedback, how to make those iterations. So just clearly understanding your product, understanding your market segment, that's what we took from the FinTech Hub. Making those constant improvements, right? So it's trying to have a quick turnaround time. Instead of waiting for a month, can you get that data in 1 week, right? So you keep on going back out there and coming back and then making those changes and improvements.
Thank you. Pesa, you mentioned, you know, with HR and getting your payments ready, but what do you see as some of the gaps within the financial sector, especially at the moment? Because with what you're doing, you also have to be able to work with banks, work with employers. So what do you think are some of those gaps that are there and how are you solving it?
So, well, we're solving one thing. I think I have to look at the whole entire sub-Saharan African market. Today, we have less than 19% of people who are banked, and also with formal employment. Majority of the people are from the informal sector, and they don't have access to financial services now. Even the ones who have actually banks, they don't have enough savings, for one, and the traditional method of requesting, whether it's an overdraft or a loan, is, well, for lack of a better word, is a bit crazy. Employment contracts, collateral, and this is things that shouldn't be a problem in the day and age that we are in today, where people have so much data that you can be able to access their risk level before you give them access to at least either their money or a potential loan. So when we looked into that market segment, we realized that whether it's someone who is not banked, they still have source of income. There's a way they are surviving, they're taking care of their families, they are doing a lot of things around. They have a way, you can find a way of collecting that data. So if you pick the biggest market workforce that we have today is the informal sector. That's the biggest workforce. Those are construction workers, organized farmers, cleaners, and these people are paid daily wages, but they don't earn it at the end of the day. So some of them work on a project and they have to get paid at the end of the month. Now, they need to be able to even, even if you don't think of emergencies, then you just have something like transport come from their home to their job. He gets a construction gig here and he has to be coming from Gisozi to here every day. most of them actually end up working, even though they've worked and they're earning some money, but they don't have access to that. So our role, what we figured was we can find alternative ways of gathering data and then use some artificial intelligence to analyze and see the risk level. And that's the route that we saw that there's a big gap there. Banks have too much data, but they are also bound by the regulations and things that they do, even though they're doing their best. But fintechs, we have a little bit more flexibility in what we can do. So our focus is purely on looking is how do you earn, and if we have any way of verifying that you have a source of income, we should allow you to be able to access your money anytime at least.
That's really interesting, because when you think of the informal sectors, you also, especially in the region that we're in, you have a lot of house helps, for example, and sometimes people don't have contracts. There are things that you don't go through, and having to be able to come up with that solution, I think, is something that most people need. Maybe as a follow-up question with that, how are you planning to make sure that, so you just mentioned, let's go back to the example of the construction worker coming in. How do you make sure that they know that these services are there for them? And have you communicated that? Do they know? So pretty much what platforms or what type of ways are you making sure that they know that you're here to help with that?
Thank you. So to add to what you just mentioned, most of these people don't have contracts, but it doesn't mean that they don't have a way of earning. And this goes to even general knowledge as a human being. If you follow someone long enough, you're going to find they have a pattern. You realize that they go to work, either they go for sports, they go to a bar. So over time, you can build a pattern. And most of these people, again, he will have a job for 2 days or a job for 5 days. And over time, you're going to realize after 2-3 years, you can build out how much they make on average. Now, how are we reaching these people? At the moment, the best route we are using is through employers. And also we have a marketing team that is doing a great job to make sure that we put our word out there that this service is available to you. And employers, most of them are glad to have us as partners because this is a value-added service for them. And actually in our traditional Rwandan way, which is so common as well in the sub-Saharan African market, most employers are constantly giving their employees salary advances. This is not a practice that they want to be doing because they would rather focus on their core business, but they know to keep your employees happy, you also have to be, and most of them are also human, you have to be able to allow people to, at least someone comes to you and tells you their wife is sick, what are you going to say? Unless you're human. So at the moment, social media, partnerships with employers and continuous work by a very good team that we have. That's what we're trying to do to get the word out there for people to know.
Thank you. Edouard, what do you think are some of the current gaps? Pretty much a similar question, but what do you think are some of the gaps in the financial inclusion, and how is U+ working towards resolving that?
Sure, thank you. I think some of the gaps in the whole financial inclusion space is the availability of great products, right, that can meet the customer's needs and what the customers want to do with their life and moving forward. So what we've been able to do with U+ is we're planning on launching the first unit trust in Rwanda called the Aguka Unit Trust. And the idea of this unit trust is that it will be able to provide our customers with a superior interest rate on their annual savings versus any banking product, any current account within the market, right? So we're always wondering, what can we do to give our customers the biggest return on their money saved? All right. At the same time, how can we do that with the lowest cost? Because if you go to all these different financial products, there are all these different hidden costs within accessing such products. So that's how we try to address those gaps, making sure our products are the best in the market, but at the same time reduce the cost of accessing the products. And just a side note, something you said about banks and data, it's totally on the side, but do you know in the real estate market, I was talking to a banker, and most banks do not have a good understanding of which, if you can ask them, can you tell me which area in Rwanda or Kigali, right, has the highest loans in terms of real estate? They can never tell that information. So when someone goes to construct a building or wants to invest in a particular property, they'll never be able to understand that. And that goes to what we're trying to do here, is how can we get that data, efficiently use it, all right, and provide more value to our customer and take them to where they need to go. Because yes, banks might not have this data, but they might not be using it in the most efficient way. Thank you.
And I think also that goes to financing, you know, especially with real estate. I don't know if you know, please correct me, but I know that with financing, you cannot just, you know, buy a house and you get small installments to be able to pay that. And so I don't know if that's something that you're also thinking of including as well.
Yes. So what we're trying to do is hopefully with the Aguka Unit Trust, if you're saving and you're getting 10.6 per annum on that fund as a group, right? You can use that as cash collateral to finance a particular asset. So if you have 50 million, 100 million, you can go to the bank and say, you know what, can we use some of this money and finance a particular asset or project we're trying to go to, versus the bank saying provide an asset of equivalent value. Yes.
Well, that's good to know. So I think we'll talk after this, maybe.
Sure, please come through.
Or anybody else as well. Because I think it's interesting, because when you're looking at these solutions, it's very few times that people think about the youth who are building their lives, or the informal sector, or you know, like there's little things that you don't think about. If you steal your smartphone, then what happens? If your wallet is stolen. So I think it's really interesting that listening to this is already bringing up ideas of some of the ways, like for collaboration, for example. Edward, you look like you want to say something?
Yes, actually one of our target segments within U+, we go for the youth. So we've been, in the last few months, we've been going cross country, all universities, and trying to get the youth financially involved. Because that's when they start their financial journey. Actually, some of them even start in high school, but that's when they start understanding, how can I save, right? How can I put money to the side? Because the moment that youth leaves university, they're going to get their first job, going to get married, have their first family, invest in their first property, you know. And so that life journey, the financial life journey, we're trying to get them early on and make it easier for them to get involved within finance and understand the financials and then start going up the journey.
Thank you. Emmanuel, what do you think, with your technologies, what do you think is enabling, because when I think about palm or vein technology, you said palm vein technology, I think you know a lot of scanning and all of that. And as you mentioned especially targeting people who are not, for example, in Kigali. Yes, they're part of them, but also going into the rural sectors. What do you think are some of the ways that you'll be able to convince people to use that? Because I think that's, for Rwandans, it's different. You don't go somewhere and just use your thumb to open, and yet you're using financial services with that. What are some ways that you think you're going to be able to reach this demographic?
Yeah, thank you very much. One of the strategies that we actually are wanting to start with is going through schools. And we believe, like he has said, the journey will start from there, from the young generation. And this is what we're going to do. We already engaged schools, whereby in the canteens, where students are buying an egg, buying some drinks, they are using cash, okay? And sometimes you find this money is stolen. So what we're going to do, we're going to provide these terminals to schools. And of course, the students will be registered. And after being registered on the platform, and then the parents will be given a gateway where they will be sending their money. And the students definitely will be given their ID account number. And then the parents will be able to send using mobile money. And then it goes to the account of the student, Emmanuel, for example. And then when you go to the canteen, you will find a terminal. And then maybe you've consumed 500, and then you authorize it by waving the palm on the terminal. And of course, the canteen owner will be seeing all the transactions, the money being deducted from the available account. So we believe once we start from the foundation students, then definitely when they go to the supermarket, they will find the same services, and then there will be a continuation, and then we grow. And that's how we're going to start. And then definitely, step by step, people realize this is a more convenient way and it's more secure. and convenient. So I think that is our strategy going forward, and that's what we're going to start with. Thank you.
Wow, that's very interesting. I think for most, when you travel, people use Apple Pay, but I guess after that we won't. Who needs a smartphone or who needs anything like that? So I think that's really good. Maybe just to add on to that and ask, I know that Rosine, one of the things that she mentioned was, you know, what are the next steps? And so maybe asking both Edouard and yourself, what are the next steps, immediate steps that you'll be taking, especially after graduating from this cohort, the second cohort?
Thank you very much. Our immediate, I chose 3 out of the many. One is, of course, acquiring the BNR license. That is the most key thing. And being a local company, there are requirements that for us to fulfill and comply. So at least I can say it's ongoing, and we are looking forward to that. So we get a license, and then we scale out big on the market. And the other thing also is we are trying to see how we engage these small merchants, especially making our products affordable and user-friendly, and also seeing how the users are acquainted and they are growing with it and they are in love with it. And that's something we're actually looking into it, small merchants, especially in the quartier. How do they find this very, very useful? What are the value propositions there? We're trying to sort of make it happen, especially for the small mom and pop shops. The other thing would be going to the schools, rolling out to the schools and seeing how we give these terminals, point of sale, to the canteens, and definitely start with the students paying with their palm. The story will saturate around there. And I think after the license, that is the next move. Thank you.
Thanks. So after the FinTech Hub, what's it called, the incubation program, we use that to stabilize our product and improve our product. But now what we're focusing on, we launched the product, our savings product in May, and we're just launching and making sure we target our particular demographic and our target market. So right now we're at 3,200 users, and we're hoping to grow that, in 2 months to 5,000 users. So that's just our main focus, is growing the user base, proving the business model, making any changes that we need to make, and just keep that growth going.
Thank you. For Pesa, as you're listening to this, because I know you guys have been in business for a while, when you hear this, or even as we're sitting here, what do you think could we have more financial inclusions that would resolve some of these? So pretty much, what can be done to foster more growth, especially looking at your story, where you're at, your target market, and obviously questions that you normally get. How do you think that could be done better?
So that's a good question. So right now we are operational in 3 countries, Rwanda, Kenya, and Ivory Coast. But it all started here in Rwanda. So I think the first thing is, in Rwanda so far, we've been on the right track. Now, as entrepreneurs, usually the regulators and the funding and the other people can help us, the incubators that are around, they usually don't move as fast as we want them to move. So we are running so fast, but we need all the support. And that's where the regulators come in, like my ICT or government, places like ICT Chamber. So it's providing more platforms for entrepreneurs to be able to experiment. I think that's what's most important. A few years ago, when we were starting into this market, there was limited options in that regard. So one is the regulatory, which so far the central bank in licensing, they're doing good with the sandbox. They can move a few things a little faster, hopefully. That's one. And then there is also funding. Funding is a big challenge. You cannot build a product without support. When you start, even though if it doesn't matter how great you think you are as an engineer, you're going to write code. At some point, the product is going to grow beyond you. And you need to get a little bit of extra help, not just to build the product itself, but also to get it outside into the market. So access to talent, that's a big challenge that we faced early enough, and we're still facing as of today. So how do we help such entrepreneurs and others that are coming up to have a pool of other like-minded people who can work with them and grow? And ICT Chamber has also done a decent job in that regard as well. And then funding, which is early investments. Because as soon as you have that MVP, the minimum viable product, and you think you're ready to at least experiment with a client, you will always need a little bit of financial backing. And that comes in terms of a kid in the US has more advantage than we do, because the friends and family can put together an angel round of $100,000. For us, we are looking at a few thousand at least to be able to even, whether it's to get a few server space and the little expenses that you need to do that a young entrepreneur can't get. So I think it's more in that regard to say, how do we get incubators around that can support more than 3, more than 5, a few more companies? How do we work with the regulators to make sure that they can support these tech startups? One of our stories was when you go meet investors and they like you, then they ask you, are you licensed? You're like, I'm working on it. Then I come back when you have the license. Now, as a tech startup, this comeback might take 3 months, and you don't have enough money to run for 3 months. So we need a little bit of support financially, and that can be through incubators, through angel networks that can be created. I know there's something that Alex is part of, as part of angel networks that you can that can at least support those people. So in a nutshell, I think that's where we really need support in those 3 key areas.
Thank you. Maybe as my final question, before we take it up to the audience, quickly, what would be your tagline? So if someone fell asleep, woke up right now, what would you want them to remember about you? Very quickly. I'll start with you.
Okay, for us, our tagline is, every day is a payday.
Edouard?
Okay. I think the one I always go back to is we go beyond savings, right? Because everybody knows that, okay, if you want to save, just start saving. But we say, no, we're going to grow your life, your financial life, beyond savings. And that's our tagline. It's basically beyond savings.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Maybe I also want to appreciate the efforts through Fintech Hub. Alex has been, and the team, they've been so supportive. UNCDF, we really are very proud of those people. They have brought that environment that has brought the encouragement to the fintech, especially the startups. We've got that advocacy, like I said, and it's really good. It's really good. I would appreciate and let them keep it up. So for us, what they could remember of us is, 1, our mission, any wallet, anytime, anywhere. We want to make life easier and simpler. We want to remove all those pains and processes. Just a palm. You're able to transact and have access to your accounts. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, audience, questions. Remember, stand up. You'll be given the microphone, name, and then the question, please. Is this the minute of pondering on the questions that you've been keeping? Microphone right behind you.
Hi, I'm Tobias. How many team members does each of you have?
Pesa-Choice, we have 28 people right now. Biggest part being engineering, and 3 people in Kenya, 1 in Ivory Coast. The rest of the team is here. 1 more in Canada, sorry.
Hi.
Oh,
to any of you. To any can answer.
Sorry, yeah. So we're going to answer, then he answers.
Yes.
So we're 5 in total, excluding me, so yes.
Yeah, for us, we're 8. 4 programmers, and then 4 sales and marketing team, including me. We are 8 of us.
Go ahead.
any of you can answer. There's been a drive to support a cashless economy and where fintech comes in, right? So I want you guys to predict for us, where do you see this problem being solved in the next 5 years?
I'll start. We're beneficiary of the cashless campaign across Rwanda by Ministry of ICT and the ICT Chamber. So it's helping us really go around the country and meet different segments of the population. And that's the idea is, because what we do here is we provide a solution, right, a cashless solution. But if the government does not provide the support or sensitize the population of the benefits of why they should go cashless, then, climbing up the hill becomes difficult. So I think Rwanda, compared to anyone else actually on the continent, I'm willing to put my money on it, will be the first country to really go cashless across the country. And people will get used to using cashless devices and solutions. Thank you.
Yeah, for the way I see the cashless economy going, with the support, the very political will that the government of Rwanda has, I will tell you that I think 10 years, this is something that even I just, 10 years are even very many, but with the will and the support the government has put up there, it has actually, it's a gradual process definitely, the mindset change, and also us as fintech startups, we need also to build a story. What are the challenges that are the people finding in going maybe banking or going on opening accounts? So we are building a story, and if the people see the value and also the support of the government, I think this country will go cashless very soon.
So in the next 5 years, to answer your question, I think how do we get there? First is improving the existing financial infrastructure. So far, Rwanda is doing a great job in that regard of financial, being basically making things cashless. However, it's still not cheap enough for everyone to use it. I think people will be encouraged a lot more if it was easier to move money from MTN to Airtel or from your bank to the other bank. So as we continue to find ways of reducing the cost of transferring money, of people sending each other money, I think in 5 years, even up to now anyway, you realize even with the high rates, you can spend a month without touching a single note. So it's working at the moment, but we have to continue to improve the infrastructure and find ways reducing fees.
Thank you. My name is Irene Masazurano from Farmgenics. I have two questions. One is for the man in the middle. You said you will be providing loans to, like, you have a salary and then I can just come to you and you give me a prepayment, right? Oh, all right. Okay, I'm sorry. So let's say the majority of Rwandans, their salary ranges from $80 to $300 per month. And most of these people, they don't have a full-time job, it's a part-time job. For me, I'm just working on this building here, and maybe I work 2 days a week. And my kid is sick, or I just want the school fees, and I come to you. I don't have a collateral. I don't have a contract. I'm just a part-time employee. How are you going to trust me to give me the money? Are you not going to reject me as the bank does? Another question is for the man on this side. You said about the high school student. Let's say Rwandans, even till now, they're still struggling of you trusting MTN with the mobile monies. They don't want to use Momo codes. They just want to keep their cash. And now you're bringing a new technology. Means you're going to have access to my bank account, my mobile money account, everywhere for you to trust me with my palm. Then what are you going to do to convince me who don't want to use mobile money, who don't want to keep my money on the phone, to trust you with my bank account for you to have access on it. And another thing is like, as technology is improving, there's a lot of scammers coming up. How am I going to think that you're a scammer? If someone comes over and they hack you and they stole my money, how are you going to solve that? Thank you.
Okay, so well, at Pesa Choice, we love giving out money. That's how, see? We just love giving people money. But what you've mentioned is, that's why you have to have, that's why banks don't do it, and we can. Reason behind that is, even though you have that 2 days, those 2 days that you work, if someone follows you long enough, they're going to know that how much you make on an average. So we don't reject you unless you don't have enough data. So what we do is we build your data for you. So banks and telcos, by the way, as you mentioned, as you already know, have most of your information because you're using mobile money. There's someone you're paying at the gas station. There's someone you're paying anywhere you are, and all that is information that you can collect. So we are able to build a profile for you and a credit history. So through building that, that's how we trust you. Building credit history is a lot about trusting. Right now, the person next to you, if they asked you to give them 5,000, you won't give it to them because you don't know them. But after you've hung with them 2-3 times and they say, can you lend me 5,000? You'll be like, sure. If you have it, you give it to them because now you've built that trust level. It's similar. It's just that this time around, you don't know the person, you're doing it blindly by just understanding how much do they make, how often are they paid, and how much do they spend on average. And that once you have that data set, you're able to say, okay, I can trust this person to give them a small amount to start. And then if they pay back, now they earn your trust again, you continue increasing their limits. So that's how we do it.
Yeah, thank you very much. I think I have to make it very clear on what I'm doing so that you know the background of it. One, the issue of trust already that is existing with mobile money, like you said, I think to me, it's like, I will give you an example. Today, people are able to shop via Alibaba and other Amazon and all that. Today, people are getting their goods. So the issue of trust, I think that one, it's a wide thing. Maybe for the government to be involved, for the service provider to comply with the regulatory rules. As Palm Cash, what we are doing, we are working towards solving some of these payment challenges. Long queue in a bank. Honestly, I don't want to mention this. I don't want even to say mention any bank, but all of you have gone to the bank. You have seen all those processes. Very, very disturbing. The other thing, even when you're in the bank and you're to be given the money, you're asked for your ID. You're asked for so many things. Okay? So identification is something, and then security comes after. So here what we are doing, you can imagine, I want to give you an example why we came up with some of these things to solve and also to assist the government in terms of, imagine you're withdrawing your money and someone has to put a PIN and you have to hide. You know what you're fighting for? You're trying to hide and make sure your account is secured. But with your palm, no one, even if you're a twin, even if you're in love of your husband, it's just unique. It's something unique of you. So when you register, you're given a token and it identifies it's Emma, and you're very sure. And it's fast, it's secure. No PIN, nothing. If you've forgotten your PIN, like I said, even in the first place, the phone is off. So how are you going to transact? So it is something that people are going to love. People are going to really see the security into it. It is going to eliminate fraud, where people are trying to steal one another's PIN codes. So here we are actually removing some of those pains that are existing. Bringing all those wallets, like I said, on one single platform. Not bringing here, there, you don't have it. If you say you went to a merchant and he has only 2 wallets, maybe Equity Bank and Beka, that's already a limitation for you to actually transact and be able to make a sale on the side of the merchant. So Palm Cash, definitely the palm is you. It's a unique identification, and to be able to make wonders. Thank you. I don't know whether I'm clear on that. Yeah.
Hello, everyone. My name is Pepita. Pleasure to meet everyone here. This question goes to Davis, but I'm really happy to also open it up to the other founders. So my question is, traditionally, fintechs are pinned against traditional financial institutions, right? And it creates sometimes a little bit of friction and competition. So the question that I have today is, how can fintechs and traditional financial institutions work together to bring about value for those who are currently either unbanked or are facing difficulties accessing finance through traditional means? The cool thing with fintechs is that they have an ability to take on risks because they're much more flexible. And traditional institutions might not be able to do so, but they do have the financial backing to support communities once they've been proven to be capable of supporting either credit or other means of traditional banking. So how do you guys see yourself setting up to working alongside traditional financial institutions to bring more value to the market rather than dividing it?
Okay, tough question. So when it comes to fintech and traditional financial institutions, well, that's a kind of a thin line that's really hard to tread when you're looking at it, because some of the solutions you're bringing as a fintech, traditional banks will think you're trying to take their market share. That becomes one. But in our case, essentially what you're looking at, you're looking for data. Banks have lots of that. But what can they do? What do they do with it? It's not, again, it's different based on who you ask. So if we could find a way to collaborate, that would be better, because banks have a lot of things that fintechs need. Fintechs have the solutions, but banks have the financial muscle. One, they already have the regulatory path that they've already passed. And I think there are some good synergies that I can see. But the question becomes is who approaches who? Us as fintechs, I tried this in 2018. No bank was really interested. Now this year, some of them are. But back then, no one was interested, because you don't get to even get through the door to tell them, look, I have this solution. I know you have massive amounts of data. I am willing to make sense of some of this data so that we can offer loans faster. It goes beyond what their traditional way is, and most of their decision making as well take time. It has to go through a proper channel. As an established organization, it goes above to the exec team, to the boards, and this is time that most fintechs don't have. So if we can find ways of saying, as a financial technology company that has a potential solution, there's possibility of partnering with a much larger financial institution, and you see what each one is bringing to the table, and then through that partnership, you're able to advance a product. Even when you do, by the way, which I've seen happen to some companies before, they want to absorb your name. So you have come with a solution, but they want it branded as X Bank. And even if some of them are not even willing to co-share, say like, this is the product, let's say quick pay by, or partnered by this one. So I think that one is a long one. I've spent more than close to 18 years building financial technology solutions, part of it building it for big banks. And I think that's a tough one, where we might need the Alexes and the Angelos to step in to see if that can work.
Yeah, for me, again, it comes back to the cost. Some of these banks and other financial service providers, they have invested. They have really invested. Maybe the local people who are illiterate, and they have a reason why they are doing what they are doing. If you went to do a research, you ask them, why aren't you having a bank account? Why aren't you having this? You may find some of them, the cost is high. You may find so many reasons out there that even the government is intervening. So as fintechs, we complement some of these already existing financial service providers. We have to close that gap. We have to identify the problem out there and then close it. what is the issue? So I'll tell you for one fact that with banks, for us, I would say, of course, collaboration is a very key thing to make sure that there is inclusiveness everywhere, even the lowest person or even a farmer. One is also to try to minimize the cost. If you give a farmer a card, if you give a farmer an application, there is maintenance, there is internet, so many things to why the cost goes high. So if as a fintech, I'm providing one single platform, you don't have to invest in infrastructure of getting the POS to every merchant. You have one for Palm Cash and everything is there. It's just internet on Palm Cash and then you find all these wallets. So the banks will save that money for buying the infrastructure of the point of sale and then also buying internet for it. And then the cards. Those cards are also manufactured, produced. There is a cost to it. So you find at the end of the day, the cost goes to the end consumer. What are we thinking about? We're complementing each other. Should I provide Palm Cash? Yes, because he will cut probably 50% of the cost, and then the end user will find it enjoyable, and then you say, okay, I think I can open an account, I can transact, I can use Palm Cash because it's cheap. So, as you said, it is all about identifying some of these gaps, root causes, what can we do? We are building daily and daily, thinking innovatively some of these challenges and how they can be addressed. With the support I said earlier, we shall get there. Thank you.
All right. To me, it's simple. It's leverage, right? We approached, I think, 5 banks in Rwanda, knocking on doors, and we were rejected. And then it hit me. It's like you have to go for someone who understands what you're doing, the value you're bringing, and you're de-risking the expansion to a particular segment. And that's why we're able to get, bigger capital. I think they launched in 2020. And they had a small customer base. So now with our 3,000 and hopefully growing user base, the moment we launch that product, we'll have a database of users to push that product towards them, and bigger capital will have all that data. So when we approach these financial institutions who give us the license coverage as well, we say it's a win-win, all right? We take on some of the risk, but at the same time for you, your product gets to expand to a wider market segment. I remember a few years ago, there was a bank that was looking to build a new headquarters in Rwanda, and they're talking about creating a section on the lobby floor for the youth to come and bank, with touchpads. And I laughed. I was like, what kind of youth are going to come and spend time in a banking, hall and try to bank with you? Everyone's on a mobile phone. Exactly. So once you understand where you're coming in, the segment you're playing in, the technology you're using, that's how you leverage when you're having this conversation. Now you'll have some banks saying, no, we don't need it. But as he said, as time has gone on, actually going back to some of these banks, they'll say, okay, come back and we have this conversation again. Because most of these businesses, they're looking for the next generation of customers. And that's where we stand. We say, we come in and we're bringing that next generation of customers to get your products and to appreciate the products you're offering. Because I don't know, you can ask in this room who knew about the Aguka Unit Trust Fund in Rwanda. Not many people know about it, but not many people knew that the fact that you're having your money in whatever bank that's giving you 5%, 6%, you're losing because inflation right now is at 10%, right? But then there's a product in Rwanda that's giving you 10.6% per year. Okay, so it's things like that where we find what the value we're bringing to the customer and where our partner, who is a financial institution, wants to go. And we said, let's do this and you do that, and that's where we are. Thanks.
Thank you so much. I think for any of you in the audience who have more questions, we can do that once you're networking in the back. But I want to take this time to thank you so much for your time, and of course, to be able to have this space and talk about these things. This is something that sometimes people take for granted, but we're able to have people who are supporting and expertise and being able to even think outside the box. I don't like saying outside or inside the box, but you're not only thinking within the box, but outside it as well. And so we want to thank you so much for your time, Emmanuel, Edouard, and Davis. And of course, for everyone here, we're not done yet, but I just wanted to thank the panelists for your time and just answering the questions that we had.
Maybe, can I? Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah, sorry. Maybe it's sort of an opportunity for those who have shops, those who have boutiques, all the business men and women, with Palm Cash, we are offering a free merchant app. Yes, if you have a shop, you want to go online, please come, we give you a free merchant app. Thank you very much.
You heard it here. Do you want to add anything to that, Cole?
Sure, just download U+, and with your friends and family, you can grow your savings and invest with your friends and family as well. Thank you, Emmanuel. Thank you.
See, Emmanuel has taught us how to sell. So thanks, guys. Well, same thing for us. We are looking for more and more partners, any employers, any people, even employees. Let's talk about how our services can be offered to you and your organization that you're part of. Our team, for us, we actually sit here, so you can knock on the door anytime, anywhere. We'll be here. We'll send you the money.
Thank you. Can you hear me? Okay. Otherwise, I was going to shout. I hope you enjoyed that. But before we end, we have 2 remarks. The first one we'll be hearing from the CEO of Novartis, Mr. Vasant Narasimhan. I hope I said that right. And then we'll be hearing from the Ministry of ICT as well. So, Mr. Vasant?
Well, terrific. Thank you very much, and it's great to be here with all of you. My name is Vas Narasimhan. I'm the global CEO of Novartis. Now, for those of you who don't know Novartis, we're one of the 50 largest companies in the world by market capitalization. We have about $50 billion in sales, 108,000 people around the world. We're about a 200-year-old company. We reach 800 million patients a year with our medicines. And you might know us because we've distributed over 1 billion courses of Cohort without profit to the continent of Africa, reaching over 400 million children. I'm here actually because my family and I spent an amazing 2 weeks here on vacation in Rwanda. But we didn't want to leave without coming here to the Norskin House, given that Novartis and the Novartis Foundation has launched the Health Tech Hub here with Pascal and his amazing team. It's been an inspiration to be here today and see the great work we're doing with startups in the community here. Something we're very proud of. And we're also proud to partner with the government of Rwanda on a range of different healthcare initiatives as one of the largest healthcare companies in the world. So I'm not your traditional speaker for a FinTech Hub presentation. I also am on vacation, which is why I'm wearing sandals. I don't have any shoes. So I hope you'll excuse those things. But what Pascal asked me to speak to you a bit about is leadership. So I became CEO of Novartis 5 years ago. I was one of the youngest CEOs of a global 50 company that's been appointed. I was appointed actually at the age of 39. Actually at 40. And it's been an extraordinary journey. And I've learned a little bit about leadership. And I thought I would share with you just a simple framework I keep in mind as all of you think about leading the companies and organizations that you work with. Because as good as your ideas are, what will matter even more is how you lead your organizations. It's actually leadership, which I fundamentally believe is the most precious resource in the planet. It's leaders who conquer incredibly complex problems and enable human progress. And it's worth remembering, in the last 100 years, human beings have had more progress than we had in the previous 2 million years. And that's because of leadership. I think about leadership in a simple framework. First, how do you lead yourself? Leading yourself is, I think, one of the real foundations of being a great leader of any of the organizations, regardless of the size. Whether it's 10 people, I lead an organization of over 100,000 people. It starts with being able to lead yourself. And there's a few elements I've picked up on the journey, which I think could hopefully help some of you. First, in order to give energy to your organization, your teams, your investors, whoever you meet with, you need to have energy. And I think leaders in general underinvest in their own energy. Simple framework to think about to leading and really enabling yourself to have energy. mindset, movement, nutrition, and recovery. Mindset, what is the mindset you go into every single day? I go with mindfulness, I do gratitude practices, but coming up with your own practices on mindset, incredibly important. Recovery, sleep. Sleep is the best medicine that evolution ever created. And if you can sleep 8 hours a day, think about power naps, think about how do you recover, take vacations, because again, it will give you the energy to give to your teams. Nutrition matters, and I always think about when I'm leading, why am I eating? Eating in the right way before real pivotal moments. If you eat a big lunch before you meet a big investor and you're yawning in front of that investor, you're probably not going to get the funding. So nutrition and thinking about what you eat, how you eat, actually matters. And then lastly, movement. And a lot of the health tech companies I met here are trying to promote more movement, but movement is a powerful energy driver. So mindset, movement, nutrition, and recovery. The second thing I really think about more and more, especially running a global company of the size with the pressures, and all of you have pressures as well, is observing yourself and observing your fatigue. There's 3 types of fatigue. The easiest one to notice is physical fatigue. You're tired. The second easiest, but also hard to notice, is cognitive fatigue. Think about it. When you sit through a 50-slide presentation of PowerPoint, you probably experience cognitive fatigue. But the hardest one, and the one that you all face because you get rejected by investors, you get told your idea is not good, is emotional fatigue. And being able to observe the different fatigues and recover is incredibly important to leading yourself well. And the last thing is, and it's something that you always have to keep working on, is being self-aware as a leader. You all have blind spots. I've got a lot of blind spots. Have people around you who are willing to tell you the truth about how you're behaving and how you're leading, because it will only help you. So lead yourself. Second is, how do you lead your teams? Again, you have the ability to do what all leaders should aspire to do, which is enable your teams to accomplish reach their full potential to have a big impact on the world. That's, in my view, the fundamental definition of leadership. And all of the research suggests there's 3 elements to what human beings are motivated by. First is a sense of mission. All of the fintech CEOs I just heard speaking, and I'm thinking about how to use some of these technologies like palm payments and other things, we'll think about it. But it's incredibly important that you have a mission that your people believe in, because having a mission that people believe in will give them the energy to get through the hardest times. Second is a sense of autonomy. Especially knowledge workers don't like to be micromanaged, and even more so in a high-tech environment like yours. So how do you serve, enable, we call it unbossed leadership at Novartis. We rolled it out globally. It's all about removing obstacles for your people, not micromanaging them. And the last is giving your people a sense of growth. Can they grow in your company? Can they grow in their roles? So those are the 3 fundamental things that ultimately drive people to work in teams. And you as the leader have to keep thinking about, how can I get the best out of my people? How can I get the best out of the teams that I'm working with? How can I get the best ideas in the room? The one other thing I'll tell you about leading teams, and this has been a hard lesson, because as a CEO, you're always under the microscope, the scrutiny, everybody's watching. You probably have small behaviors that your team is reading in ways that may disempower them. Like a simple behavior might be that when a certain person is talking, you tend not to make eye contact. To that person, that's a huge deal. I find the micro behaviors of leaders is something incredibly hard to be aware of, but it matters tremendously in your teams. And getting those right can actually help you get even more out of your people. The last element of leadership I think about is, how do you lead the broader environment? How can you actually lead the ecosystem in a big company like Novartis? How do you lead the enterprise? I think of it as, how do you become a T-shaped leader? So if you're all about a very specific fintech app, how can you actually shape the broader fintech environment and see things that are coming before they hit you? It's called perceptual acuity. A lot of leadership gurus talk about it. But if you have an idea and you really believe in it, it's easy to become so focused in that idea that you miss the massive disruption coming around the corner, or the way you might be able to pivot your company to actually achieve its full potential. But that requires the leader to have tremendous perceptual acuity. I try to do it by reading broadly. I try not to read about healthcare. I try to read about fintech. I try to read about other sectors so that my mind is open to what are ways I can actually shape my company to be successful in the long run. So it's an invitation. I think it's the best I can offer a fintech audience given my background. I'm a physician scientist. I used to run R&D at Novartis before becoming CEO. But how do you lead yourself? How do you lead your team? And how do you lead the broader environment? And if you keep working on those three things, as you keep leading your company, your impact will only grow, not only on your company, but on the world at large. So thanks for listening. I hope it's a little bit helpful. I would really welcome taking any questions that all of you have. Any questions? Oh, as Pascal promised to ask one.
We talked earlier today about startups that Sorry, the people in the back, maybe if you couldn't hear me. So earlier we met some startups that were pitching to you, and you also heard the fintech entrepreneurs also talking about the ecosystems, also like some of the solutions they're developing. In your experience as a leader of a large corporation, what do you think startups need to do in order to be able to collaborate like with an organization like yourself, or like the scale of Novartis, or even let's say like local corporations? What can they do?
So I have a few thoughts, and I observed them today as well. I also was previously co-chaired a fund with MPM Capital. It was a multi-$100 million fund. We at Novartis have DRX Capital as well as the Novartis Venture Fund. So I do interact quite a bit with the startup community. And I also did quite a few digital health investments. I mean, still interestingly, just from a business model perspective, there's three things that come up again and again and again. How efficiently can you acquire your customer? So what is the cost of acquisition of that customer? What is the attrition of your customer base? So you see massive attrition of customer bases over time when you get trying to get to scale. And third, do you have a sustainable monetization model? I mean, I wish it was more complicated than that, but if you can answer those three questions, I mean, that already gets you so far of the way there. So I would really, really focus on that. The second, I think, and I heard that from some of the colleagues today, is do you really have a clear value proposition? It's got to be super, super, super clear. And the simpler, the better. Because if you think about somebody like on my team who's looking at this, we look at thousands of opportunities, right? It's got to be so obvious. And then you say, wow, that's a... And so I think crystallizing that value proposition and keep working on it. Keep working on it. Don't think I've got it, because you can always make it a little crisper, a little better. I saw some nice one-liners up here, so congratulations. I think you had a really nice one. Good, simple messages really, really help. And I think that's really important to think about. And then I think I would really urge you, as hard as it is, really think about who, as you get bigger, who are your investors and who is on your board. Because it is really tempting to take the money. But if you don't have investors who are committed to what you want to do with the company, you're giving ownership, typically. And that ownership will dilute your ability to actually move the company in the direction you want. And I see that again and again in the biotech space. You take investors who want to exit fast because they want to get their multiple. And then they exit before maybe the company was really ready or really, really mature. Or you try to take a board that's not really the one that can really help you. It takes discipline to do that. I know that's super hard, but being patient to get the right people to work with will really make a difference. Those would be my three ideas. Please.
Yes, so I have a question. So imagine we're investors and you're pitching to us about your expansion to Africa. What would be your selling point? Reason why we should believe in Novartis and their plans for the continent?
Yeah, so I think the African health story has been extraordinary in conquering, in many ways, infectious disease. And it's getting better and better. After what I saw today in Rwanda, malaria is really on its way down here in this country. But Africa has a massive health crisis looming that has the potential to take down, I believe, entire economies, and it's non-communicable diseases. It is the march of diabetes, hypertension, obesity, and related conditions. And Novartis is the global leader in cardiovascular disease treatment and cardiovascular disease prevention. And we want to be the company to, in a cost-effective way, treat Africans to enable them to live long, healthy lives. And what we say, reimagine medicine.
All right, I don't know what I'm doing in tech. I clearly can't work a mic. Okay, so my question, speaking of cardiovascular diseases, is we have a lot of founders here today, right? And one of the main things I've seen being here at Noskin is exhaustion and fatigue. And you as a CEO of a large corporation, I'm sure you deal with the same. So my question to you today is a fun one, is what do you do to decompress and to take time off work to be better at work? Thank you.
Thank you. So I come to Rwanda for 2 weeks, which has been absolutely extraordinary, other than the car ride to Nyungwe, which was daunting. But other than that, it's been absolutely amazing to be here and be on vacation. But I come back to, so, you know, of course, spending time with my family is the most important thing. My boys and my wife are back there in the back of the room. They're my source of energy and inspiration, and I would be nowhere without them. So that's really where I coach my boys' basketball teams on the weekends, is what I really enjoy doing. But I'd also come back to this idea of mindset, movement, nutrition, and recovery. These are habits you can build into your day. And if you build habits into your day, you accumulate reservoirs of energy. And if you don't, you will deteriorate and exhaust and burn out. So sleep, nutrition, movement, mindfulness, doing these things consistently over time, and there's great apps to help you with this. I'm a big Headspace user, but there's a few other great ones out there. That really makes a difference. So I think of it as not doing like one event, but I think, can you do this every single day so that you have energy and can build resilience? Because it's hard. I mean, I don't have the same challenges as you do, but before this vacation, I had to go to every major investor in the United States, sit in front of them for an hour while trying to explain, why isn't your stock price moving faster up, right? Again and again and again and again and again, right? And they're not like, it's not like fun meetings, right? These aren't just like, yeah, this is great. I mean, you do it again for hours. I do 8 or 9 of them a day for 5 days. And so you have to have a lot of energy. And if you show up in that meeting and you look depressed, I mean, then you got a problem, right? So I think there was another one here, please.
Yeah, thank you very much. Mine circulates on leadership that you talked about earlier. As a startup, definitely, you know, a lot of energy is needed and lots of things into play where you have to find resources, you have to manage the team. As for Palmcash, we're about 8 people, staff, and then also about 20 part-timers that come whenever there is a job. And when you talked of leadership, sometimes I wanted to ask, how do you manage people with different temperaments? Mm-hmm. Whereby you find a situation hits, maybe it needs money, that's for me, probably find my way out. And then you find a situation, I will give you an example. One time maybe a system crashed down and we're in the middle of doing things, doing a job, and everyone's complaining, yeah, you're disappointed, and everyone is hitting pressure on you. And my question is, how do you manage these people? Yes, you give them the dream, you give them the passion,
sure. Yep.
and ownership, but then how do you manage? Because you find someone is really, really hard. Yeah. It takes a process to convince him, to bring him on the board, to act the way you want him to act. Yeah. So I'm trying to imagine how that can be managed and how, as a startup. And then the other question would be, you talked of the 5 recovery and all that. So, and I'm thinking as a startup, probably you're an international organization, but as a startup, here lots of things need much of your time. And I'm thinking, okay, this is a startup, you need to go out in the market, and you need to drive the whole team. So I'm just thinking how you balance that.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So on the first question, there's something, a very simple thing I keep coming back to. You in your nervous system have two modes. One is the fight or flight mode, which is driven by your sense of something happening in your environment that you need to defend or you have fear of. That used to be running from a bear and running from a lion. Now it's like a really terrible email, a system going out or whatever, and your body goes into fight or flight. You can actually observe it. If you sit in a meeting and somebody says, I disagree with you, that's a stupid thing, you will notice your heart rate going slightly up. You will notice your system actually clamping down. That is actually a fight or flight response. You do not make good decisions on fight or flight responses. There have been studies after studies of Wall Street traders. When Wall Street traders are making decisions on fight or flight responses, they make bad trades. But when they're calm, when they're settled, when they're in perspective, then they make much better trades. And so it's just an interesting thing. So when you're in those situations as a leader, I think of it as a great book about just called this, of pausing and breathing so that you can reset out of the fight or flight mode. When everyone else around you is in fight or flight mode, you need to be the person who's centered, calm, and in control. But that takes tremendous discipline because the easiest thing to do is just to react, and then the reactions only escalate. And they're only making people's nervous systems go even higher. So I really think of it, but that takes the discipline of saying, okay, I'm in a situation, I sense my nervous system getting agitated, take a breath, I'm going to stay calm, and I'm going to try to find a path forward, either with the individual or the emotion, et cetera. But that's my best tip on this, and I try to observe it, and I observe it in myself, right? If one of you asked me an aggressive question right now, oh, the pharmaceutical industry is a terrible industry, you guys are crooks, or whatever, I would notice a response, right? That's very normal. But can you then calmly answer it in a way that's fact-based and reasonable? I think on the second point of how do you balance your time, I tell you, it is hard. I don't have a magic solution. I mean, in terms of managing, being in the home office, being out with customers, being with investors, being with government officials, my best advice is to write down for yourself, what are the top 5 priorities for your company? And come back to that list and ask, am I spending the time on the things that really matter? Because the easiest thing to do is get distracted by 100 things. But keep coming back to that list. I write it down. I have it on my iPad. I have top 5, and I come back and say, is that where I'm spending my time? And one of the most important things always on that last list is people and talent. Because if you don't have good people or talent, forget it, right? You're never gonna succeed. That's always on the list. But I come back to that list, and that's how I try to manage the time. Actually, just want to do a time check. I don't know if we're going too long. Or I think there's one more question? Yeah. Okay. Please.
Just the last one, I hope. My name is Dixon. I'm a founder of a genealogy platform here at Noskin. My question is going to be close to what he asked you. As a person in your position, what would be your elevator pitch? If you made, say, if you know the theory of 6 degrees of separation, now what would be your elevator pitch if you made, say, somebody from the global 1%?
If elevator pitch for a startup to the global 1%.
Your elevator pitch, no matter the sector you're in.
To the global, the wealthiest in the world, you're saying. Yeah, what I think you have to do is get to where is the heart of these individuals. So I think the key in my mind is really understanding where are their passions, and accept that not everybody has the same passion. But if you can find the element in anyone where what they're really, really passionate about and make a hook there, then I think you can get your angel investor. But what I think many startups do is they start with the pitch instead of listening to see where is the angle, right? That's actually the harder thing. So what are you, my startup on the elevator pitch would be like, what are you interested in, sir? What are you passionate about? And just listen. And then reframe your pitch based on what matters to them. Not trying to drive the pitch you want to make to them, because the likelihood that they're much more receptive is much higher. Listen, thank you all very much. Thanks for listening. Again, I want to thank Pascal and the whole team here at Norskin. I think what this center is absolutely amazing. I think it's the future. It's what's going to enable Rwanda and I hope Africa to leapfrog. I've been working here in public health with my wife for over 25 years. We want nothing more than to see that happen. I think this is just going to be such a powerful way to enable that development to be accelerated. So thank you all again.
Thank you so much. For closing remarks, we will invite Mr. Angelos Munezero, who is the Public Digitization Analyst at the Ministry of ICT and Innovation.
Wow, wow, wow. How hard it is to speak after the great panel we had, and mostly after the great insight from Mr. Vassant. Anyway, it's hard, but let's hope that at least we got the insight and the message from the panel discussion, and also hope that it will spark the way we've been working on our different solutions, innovations towards actually growth and scale. So before maybe I deliver the closing remark on behalf of the minister who actually wanted to be here but who couldn't manage, allow me first to speak on the three startups that, were sitting here before us, and the rationale of this is actually to push and propel collaboration between us. So from my perspective, the three startup and solutions are so amazing. I'm actually a public servant, so I know what it takes to get a loan. And always when it's in the middle of the month, of course, I would love so much to actually get a punch of, my salary to actually address some of the issues. So I believe for all, who are not, let's say, funders of startup here, we share the same experience, and Pesa Choice is actually addressing that challenge. So that's the first one. So going to the second one, which was U+. So for me, who I believe was in the cashless campaign, I've seen how different people were so amazed by the U+ solution. And this is because here in Rwanda, we are used to what we call ibimina, so those informal saving groups, whereby, people do those kind of savings, but they are not secure. At one time, you will find that, let's say, the one who is managing the money will, still all do those kind of, fraudulent activities, and there is all those kind of issues. But as we speak now with U+, you can have this way of saving and it resolving the issues that we all face in different ibiminas. And thirdly, to URID, for those who go to supermarket shopping using mobile money, for me, I always pay like hiding my phone because I don't want anyone to see my password because of all those challenges. But again, with your palm, you're able now to, do a secure transaction and payment. So the rationale of giving these very few highlights, I believe they've given us more than that, but is for us to have that kind of collaboration. So those three solutions are bringing, very good, I would say, experience more than what we used to have. So we should be aiming to support them, and all of us here, we should be at least among their first anchor customers that are trying to use their solutions. So for those who are with me in trying to use those solutions, can you please raise your hand? Oh my God, oh my God. So the collaboration issue is still there. Anyways, so maybe since it's getting actually late, so allow me to first of all thank everyone. I know we have many distinguished guests. We have the variable startups that have been presenting in front of us. So we have different partners that we work together. in supporting the fintech ecosystem, and actually on behalf of the Ministry of ICT Innovation. So we are very, very pleased and excited to be part of this movement, part of this future of our country, and would like, first of all, to thank you so much for being part of this future of our country. So secondly, I would really love to thank partners who are really supporting the fintech ecosystem in Rwanda. We earlier on touched about UNCDF, we touched about the ICT Chamber. We are now at NOSCAN, among many others. So we really want to thank you for that collaboration towards developing our fintech ecosystem. Earlier on, we had someone who were asking a question about the collaboration and the hardship between fintech startup and also the traditional financial institutions. For me, when we are looking into the numbers back at the ministry, back, let's say, in around 2010, those telecom companies here in Rwanda had like 10% of the customers that banks used to have. But in now 10 years, the trend is now more different. Now the mobile money is actually enabling more people than the traditional financial institutions. So for me, I see this as a vision, because mobile money is able to actually onboard more people, even in the informal sector, even those who get a daily wage. And I see only the survival of financial institutions to actually collaborate with fintech companies. It may take 1, 2, 3, 5 years, but their only survival is to be able to onboard more customers. Because for now, what if, let's say, mobile money is now giving loans to everyone? How many will be still going into the banks? Because now the only leverage that, let's say, financial institutions are providing is those long-term loans. But what if mobile money is able to provide those? So, the relevance of banks will be very, very less. So that's the future I see, and I believe with the collaboration that we have, with the working together, the togetherness, I believe that we'll achieve that a contribution in that collaboration between fintech startups as well as traditional financial institutions. So the other thing that I wanted to mention is, earlier on in the video, they mentioned that in Rwanda, we are at 93% in terms of financial inclusion. But again, when we look into what we call formal financial inclusion, which means everyone who is financially included at least is accessing financial services through a licensed or at least approved financial institutions, which means, the banks, the other mobile financial institutions. So we are at around 77%, and even the big chunk of that percentage are onboarded through mobile money. So our aim and our vision is to ensure that every Rwandan adult is able to access financial services through different platforms, so that they can even have different access in terms of saving, insurance, payment, among different others. So if we still have more than 20% people to be onboarded, I believe this is a very great opportunity for the fintech ecosystem to leverage that challenge that we have to onboard more customers. One of the things that we've seen is that there is so much value in market creating innovation. So we have a lot of non-consumers. So it's actually, the onus is on us to try and turn all those non-consumers into consumers. And in the long run, they will become our client, our customers, and that will bring more profit to us. So lastly, as I conclude, a long time ago, before I joined the ministry, I've been an entrepreneur. So back in the days, we didn't used to have this kind of events, maybe very few at K-Lab, but at least, and this is something that I share with the other colleagues back at the ministry, is that now there is this kind of will from the government to support the startup ecosystem at large. We're working on a lot of instruments to provide funding to actually even alleviate some of the tax or other things that are actually kind of obstacles to the growth of startup. And when at the ministry we're looking at trying to assess what is in with the ecosystem, we're like, so at least this within our time, they weren't there. So for now, it's really our urge, our push, so that as the government is putting more support, let's also try to work hard to ensure that we're growing to actually even get more capable companies that are scaled and that are serving not only Rwanda but also the rest of Africa. So as we have companies graduating today, our thinking is that they're going to be able to actually afford more support, let's say from the venture funders that are here in Rwanda and be able to continuously scale. So that's our hope, and from the ministry perspective, we'll still be there to support you in terms of collaboration with the Rwandan regulatory framework and ensure that there is no hurdles on that end, but also we look up to you to actually put more efforts from the experience that have been shared here to ensure that we are at least moving from one stage to the other of our growth. So with that, thank you so much for actually being here. So we're still together, and this is to assure you the support from the ministry to ensure that you are continuously growing. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Angelos. I don't think there's anything else I can say to add on to that. We want to thank you very much for being here. And of course, I'm sure the cocktails are open. You'll be having cocktails from Bichu Lounge. And this wouldn't be possible, obviously, if it wasn't for Norskin, the ministry, and UNCDF. So we want to thank you guys so much for your time and hope you enjoy, network, ask questions. Everyone is still here. And have a good time. And of course, for the next edition, hope you'll be here again. Thank you all. Have a great evening.